The anesthesia mask was coming down over my face when my phone buzzed one last time. I should have turned it off, but something made me glance at the notification. My wife Carla had just posted on Facebook, "Finally free," with a photo of her and some guy I didn't recognize, both grinning like idiots at Murphy's brunch house. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I was supposed to be unconscious in 30 seconds, but my mind went crystal clear. Free? I was getting my appendix out, not dying. What the hell did she mean by free? "Mr. Thompson, we need you to count backwards from 10, Dr. Martinez said, but I was staring at my phone screen, watching the comments roll in. "You deserve it, girl. About time you dumped that loser. He never appreciated you anyway. 10, 9, 8. The phone slipped from my fingers as everything went black, but not before I saw her response to someone asking about me. "Don't worry about Jake. He'll figure it out eventually." Yeah, I figured it out all right. When I woke up 3 hours later, groggy and stitched up, my phone had 47 notifications. The post had exploded. Half the town was congratulating my wife on leaving me, and I was learning about my divorce from Facebook comments while hooked up to an IV drip. The guy in the photo was Evan Mitchell, her coworker from Pinnacle Tech Solutions. 28 years old, drove a BMW he couldn't afford, and apparently had been consoling my wife for months while I worked 60-hour weeks at my auto repair shop to keep us afloat. I scrolled through more comments, each one a knife twist. My own neighbors were celebrating. My wife's sister had shared the post with crying, laughing emojis. Even my daughter Ava had liked it from her college dorm room. But here's the thing about being a mechanic for 25 years. You learn to spot problems before they become disasters. And you learn that the best revenge isn't always the loudest. I typed one word. Congrats. Then I screenshot everything. The nurse came in to check my vitals. "How are you feeling, Mr. Thompson?" "Like I just got a wake-up call," I said, already formulating my plan. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my best friend Frankie, who owned Murphy's bar downtown. "Jake, you seeing this shit? Get down here when you can walk. We need to talk." But I wasn't ready to talk yet. I was ready to watch, and wait, and let my dear wife dig her own grave with every public comment she made about our failed marriage and her new beginning. See, Carla always was too smart for her own good. She had a business degree, managed human resources at the biggest tech company in our little Massachusetts town, and never let me forget that she made more money than a grease monkey like me. But she made one crucial mistake. She forgot that this grease monkey knew how to fix things, and sometimes fixing things means taking them completely apart first. I opened my laptop, the one I bought her for work, and started documenting everything. Screenshots, timestamps, comments from her coworkers about company time spent on personal drama, photos of her and Evan taken during business hours in what looked suspiciously like the Pinnacle Tech break room. My wife had just handed me a roadmap to destroy her career, her reputation, and her little love affair, all while she thought she was celebrating her freedom. The best part? She had no idea I was awake. By the time they discharged me the next morning, I had a complete dossier on my wife's affair. Turns out when you're stuck in a hospital bed with nothing but time and Wi-Fi, you can learn a lot about people. Evan Mitchell. Assistant marketing coordinator at Pinnacle Tech, hired 8 months ago. Single, lived in the Riverside Apartments complex, drove a leased 2023 BMW that cost more than most people's rent. His Instagram was public, and it told quite a story. There were photos of him and Carla going back 3 months, coffee dates during lunch breaks, team-building dinners that looked awfully romantic. A weekend trip to Boston that she told me was a women's retreat with her sister. But the real goldmine was LinkedIn. Evan had been posting about workplace relationships and finding love in unexpected places. He'd even written a blog post titled, "When Your Heart Leads You to a Coworker," that was basically a how-to guide for office affairs. The idiot had documented his own misconduct. I drove home from the hospital in my beat-up Ford pickup, still sore from surgery but energized by what I'd discovered. Our house, a modest 2-story colonial we'd bought 15 years ago, looked different now. The flower boxes Carla had insisted on, the fresh paint job, the perfectly manicured lawn. It all felt like a stage set for a life that had been a lie. Her car wasn't in the driveway, still celebrating, probably. Inside, I found more evidence of her deception. Love notes hidden in her dresser drawer, receipts for expensive dinners I hadn't eaten, a credit card statement showing charges at Victoria's Secret, a lingerie store, and a jewelry boutique, none of which had benefited me. But the smoking gun was her work laptop, sitting open on the kitchen counter. Carla had always been careless with passwords. She used the same one for everything. Ava 2004, our daughter's name and birth year. I'd told her 100 times it wasn't secure, but she never listened. Her email was a treasure trove. Months of flirting with Evan during work hours. Plans to leave me once Jake's business finally fails. Complaints about my blue-collar mentality and how she deserved better than a mechanic who smells like motor oil. The most damning emails were the ones where she and Evan discussed using company resources for their relationship. Meeting rooms booked for strategic planning sessions that were actually make-out sessions, company credit cards used for romantic dinners, even a weekend conference in Hartford that they'd attended together, sharing a hotel room on Pinnacle Tech's dime. I printed everything, every email, every receipt, every photo. Then I organized it all in a neat folder labeled Evidence. My phone rang. Frankie. Jake, where the hell are you? Half the town's talking about Carla's Facebook post. The other half is taking bets on whether you'll key that pretty boy's car. I'm not keying anyone's car, Frank. Good, because that's amateur hour. You want real revenge, you gotta think bigger. Already am. I told him about the emails, the company misconduct, the paper trail of their affair conducted on company time with company resources. Frankie whistled low. Jesus, Jake. She's not just cheating on you, she's stealing from her employer to do it. That's exactly what she's doing. And her boss, Mrs. Lawton, is a real stickler for company policy. I remember Carla telling me she fired 2 people last year just for using company computers to job hunt. So what's your play? I'm going to give Mrs. Lawton exactly what she needs to clean house. But first, I need to make sure Carla and her boyfriend dig themselves in even deeper. How are you going to do that? Easy. I'm going to encourage them. After I hung up with Frankie, I crafted my response carefully. I went back to Carla's Facebook post and added another comment. Hope you and Evan are enjoying the celebration. You both deserve each other. Then I tagged Evan in the comment. Within minutes, the responses started pouring in. Carla's friends were praising her for finally standing up for herself. Evan's buddies were congratulating him on landing the MILF from work. Our neighbors were choosing sides. But most importantly, Carla herself responded, Thanks, Jake. At least you're being mature about this. Evan and I are very happy together, and we're not hiding anymore. Perfect. She'd just publicly confirmed the affair and identified her partner. On a post that was already being shared around town like wildfire. I screenshot that too. Then I did something that would have made my old army sergeant proud. I began a systematic campaign of intelligence gathering that would have impressed the CIA. I drove to Pinnacle Tech's office park and positioned myself in the parking lot with a clear view of the building. Sure enough, at 2:30 p.m., Carla and Evan emerged together, holding hands, and got into his BMW. They drove to the Marriott downtown. I followed at a distance, took photos of them entering the hotel together, and noted the time. 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. They didn't come out for 2 hours. While they were inside, I called Pinnacle Tech's main number. Pinnacle Tech Solutions, this is Jessica. Hi, Jessica. This is Jake Thompson. I'm trying to reach my wife, Carla Thompson, in HR, but she's not answering her direct line. Oh, let me check. It looks like she's in an off-site meeting this afternoon. Can I take a message? No message, thanks. Off-site meeting. Right. I had photos of them entering the hotel, phone records showing she wasn't answering company calls, and email evidence that this wasn't their first afternoon meeting. By the time they emerged from the hotel at 4:52 p.m., I had enough evidence to bury them both. But I wasn't done yet. The best part was still coming. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 15 years of marriage. I called in sick to my own business. My partner Dave could handle things for one day. I had more important work to do. I positioned myself at the Dunkin' Donuts across from Pinnacle Tech at 7:30 a.m. with a clear view of the employee parking lot. Carla arrived at 8:15 in her Honda Civic, looking happier than I'd seen her in months. Evan pulled up 10 minutes later in his BMW, and they walked into the building together, not even trying to hide their relationship anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from Carla. Jake, we need to talk tonight. I'll be home around 6. I responded, Sure, looking forward to it. What she didn't know was that I'd already been inside our house that morning, installing a digital recorder in the living room. If she wanted to talk, I wanted documentation. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into the law office of Patricia Hendricks, the best divorce attorney in town. I'd called ahead and made an emergency appointment. Mr. Thompson, I understand you're facing some marital difficulties. That's putting it mildly. I laid out the entire folder of evidence on her desk. My wife is having an affair with her coworker, using company resources to conduct the relationship, and she announced our divorce on Facebook while I was in surgery. Patricia's eyebrows went up as she flipped through the emails and photos. This is quite comprehensive. How did you obtain these communications? From her work laptop, which she left open in our kitchen, the laptop I purchased for her, in our house, using our shared internet connection. That should be admissible. And you said she's using company resources for personal business? Hotel rooms, dinners, even booking conference rooms for romantic encounters. It's all documented. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Mr. Thompson, with evidence like this, you could not only win a favorable divorce settlement, you could probably get her fired. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. We spent the next hour crafting a legal strategy. Patricia would file for divorce citing adultery and submit the evidence of Carla's misconduct. But she agreed that my plan to let Carla's employer handle the workplace violations first was smart. Let her lose her job before she knows you're filing for divorce, Patricia advised. She'll have less money to fight you with and no income to claim in the settlement negotiations. My thoughts exactly. At noon, I drove back to Pinnacle Tech. This time, I wasn't there to spy. I was there to deliver justice. The receptionist Jessica smiled when I walked in. Mr. Thompson, are you here to see Carla? Actually, I was hoping to speak with Mrs. Lawton if she has a moment. Oh, well, she's pretty busy, but let me check. Margaret Lawton was a woman in her 60s who'd built Pinnacle Tech from a 5-person startup into a 100-employee company over 20 years. She had a reputation for being fair, but absolutely ruthless when it came to company policy violations. Mr. Thompson, isn't it? Carla's husband. Please, have a seat. Her office was all business. Awards on the walls, family photos on the desk, and a no-nonsense attitude that I respected immediately. Mrs. Lawton, I'm here about a serious matter involving company policy violations. I have evidence that 2 of your employees are conducting a personal relationship using company time and resources. I handed her a condensed version of my evidence folder. Just the workplace violations, nothing about the affair itself. Her expression grew darker as she reviewed the emails, photos, and expense reports. These are serious allegations, Mr. Thompson. How did you come by this information? My wife left her work laptop open at home. When I saw emails discussing company conference rooms being used for personal meetings and expense reports for romantic dinners, I felt obligated to bring it to your attention. And the other employee involved is Evan Mitchell from marketing. She nodded grimly. I'll need to conduct a full investigation, but if these allegations are substantiated, both employees will face immediate termination. I understand. I just felt you should know. You did the right thing, Mr. Thompson. We take misuse of company resources very seriously here. As I left her office, I felt a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in months. The wheels of justice were now in motion, and Carla had no idea what was coming. I spent the rest of the afternoon at my shop, actually working for the first time in days. It felt good to focus on something simple, replacing brake pads, changing oil, fixing things that could actually be fixed. Dave noticed my improved mood. You seem better today, Jake. Whatever's going on at home, you handling it okay? Yeah, Dave, I think I'm handling it just fine. At 5:30, I headed home to wait for Carla's big conversation. I had no idea what she was planning to say, but I knew exactly how I was going to respond. The digital recorder was ready. My lawyer was on standby, and Mrs. Lawton was probably scheduling disciplinary meetings as I walked through my front door. Carla's car pulled into the driveway at exactly 6 p.m. She looked nervous as she walked up the front steps, clutching her purse like a shield. Hi, Jake. How are you feeling? How's your incision? Healing up nicely, thanks. You said you wanted to talk? She sat down across from me in our living room, the same spot where we'd discussed our dreams, our plans, our future together. Now she was here to destroy all of it. Jake, I think we both know this marriage isn't working anymore. Do we? Come on, be honest. We've been growing apart for years. We want different things. We're different people. You're right about that. I never would have posted about leaving you on Facebook while you were in surgery. She had the grace to look ashamed, at least. That was poorly timed. I'm sorry about that. Poorly timed, that's one way to put it. Look, I've found someone who makes me happy, someone who understands me and shares my ambitions. I think we should get divorced. This someone wouldn't happen to be Evan Mitchell, would it? Her face went pale. How do you... Yes, Evan and I have developed feelings for each other. Developed feelings? Is that what you call booking hotel rooms on company time? Now she looked panicked. Jake, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you've been conducting an affair using company resources for months. I'm talking about expense reports for romantic dinners and conference rooms booked for makeout sessions. You went through my laptop? You left it open in our kitchen, with our shared password. The same password I've been telling you to change for 5 years. Carla stood up, pacing now. Okay, yes, Evan and I have been seeing each other, but that doesn't change the fact that our marriage is over. You're absolutely right. Our marriage is over. The question is whether your career is over too. What do you mean? I smiled for the first time in days. I mean, Mrs. Lawton is probably reviewing your employment file as we speak. The color drained completely from her face. Jake, what did you do? I did what any concerned citizen would do when they discovered evidence of corporate misconduct. I reported it to the appropriate authorities. You bastard! You can't destroy my career over this. I'm not destroying anything, Carla. You destroyed it yourself the moment you decided to steal from your employer to fund your affair. She was crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no second thoughts. Please, Jake. My job is everything to me. I'll lose my house, my car, everything. You should have thought of that before you posted "finally free" while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and couldn't help but smile. What? Carla demanded. Mrs. Lawton wants to see you in her office first thing tomorrow morning. You might want to update your resume tonight. The next morning, I was replacing the transmission on a 2018 Honda Accord when Frankie burst through the garage door with a huge grin on his face. Jake, you magnificent bastard. Do you know what happened at Pinnacle Tech this morning? I looked up from under the hood. I might have an idea. Both of them fired. Security walked them out at 9:30 a.m., carrying cardboard boxes like some kind of corporate perp walk. How do you know all this? My cousin Rita works in accounting there. She said Mrs. Lawton called an emergency meeting, went through a whole presentation about company policy violations, then had security escort Carla and Evan out of the building. Apparently, Evan actually tried to argue with her, said it was discrimination against office relationships. I couldn't help but laugh. How'd that go over? About as well as you'd expect. Rita said Mrs. Lawton told him that if he wanted to file a complaint, he could do it from the unemployment line. My phone had been buzzing all morning with angry texts from Carla, but I'd been ignoring them. Now it rang with an unknown number. Jake Thompson. You son of a bitch! It was Evan, and he sounded unhinged. You destroyed our lives. You cost us our jobs. No, Evan. You cost yourselves your jobs when you decided to conduct a personal relationship on company time using company resources. This isn't over, old man. You think you're so smart, but you just made enemies of the wrong people. Is that a threat? It's a promise. He hung up, but I wasn't worried. Evan Mitchell was all bluster and no substance. A 28-year-old marketing coordinator who drove a leased BMW and thought he was Gordon Gekko. But I was wrong about him being all bluster. At 2 p.m., I was in the office doing paperwork when I heard shouting outside. Through the window, I saw Evan's BMW pull into our parking lot, followed by Carla's Honda. They both got out and stormed toward the garage. Dave, I called to my partner. We might have some trouble. Dave looked outside and shook his head. Want me to call the cops? Not yet. Let's see what they have to say. Carla reached the office door first, with Evan right behind her. She looked terrible. Red eyes, disheveled hair, like she'd been crying for hours. Jake, you have to fix this. Call Mrs. Lawton and tell her you made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake, Carla. You did. Evan pushed past her into the office. He was trying to look intimidating in his expensive suit, but mostly he just looked desperate. Listen, Grease Monkey, I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but it ends now. Game? You think this is a game? You're jealous because your wife chose a better man, a younger man, a man with a future. I stood up slowly. I'm 6'2" and spent 4 years in the Army before I became a mechanic. Evan was maybe 5'10" and looked like he'd never done physical labor in his life. A better man doesn't sleep with another man's wife using stolen company resources. We're in love, something you obviously don't understand. Love? Is that what you call it when you book hotel rooms on your employer's credit card? Carla stepped between us. Stop it, both of you. Jake, I'm begging you. Call Mrs. Lawton. Tell her you were mistaken about the evidence. I can't do that, Carla, because I wasn't mistaken. Then we'll sue you, Evan shouted, for harassment, for invasion of privacy, for defamation. With what money? You're both unemployed. That's when Evan snapped. He lunged at me across the desk, swinging wildly. I caught his wrist easily and twisted his arm behind his back, pressing his face against the desktop. Dave, call the police. Let me go. Evan struggled, but I had 40 pounds and 20 years of manual labor on him. You assaulted me in my own business, son, in front of witnesses. Carla was screaming at both of us to stop, but it was too late. Evan had crossed a line, and now there would be consequences. The police arrived within 5 minutes. Officer Martinez, no relation to my surgeon, had dealt with domestic disputes before. What's the situation here, Jake? This man attacked me in my office. I was defending myself. That's not true, Evan protested as I released him. He destroyed our careers. He's harassing us. Officer Martinez looked at Dave. What did you see? The young guy came in here shouting and threatening Jake, then took a swing at him. Jake just defended himself. I want to press charges, I said. Assault and battery. Evan's face went white. You can't be serious. Dead serious. You threatened me on the phone, then came to my workplace and physically attacked me. That's a crime. As Officer Martinez handcuffed Evan and read him his rights, Carla grabbed my arm. Jake, please, don't do this. We can work something out. There's nothing to work out, Carla. You made your choice when you posted that Facebook announcement. Now you get to live with the consequences. I'll lose everything. You should have thought of that before you decided to betray our marriage and steal from your employer. As they led Evan away in handcuffs, he shouted back at me. This isn't over, Thompson. I have friends, people who can make your life hell. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered waking up from surgery to discover my wife's betrayal on Facebook, and the sympathy evaporated. Carla followed the police car out of the parking lot, leaving me alone with Dave and the satisfaction of knowing that justice was finally being served. Damn, Jake, Dave said. Remind me never to piss you off. Just don't steal my wife and we'll be fine. Deal. That evening, I had dinner at Frankie's bar and told him about the confrontation. Word was already spreading around town about Evan's arrest and the reasons behind it. You know what the best part is? Frankie said as he poured me another beer. What's that? Everyone's talking about how you handled this. No drama, no crazy revenge schemes, just good old-fashioned consequences for bad behavior. You're becoming something of a folk hero around here. I'm not a hero, Frank. I'm just a guy who got tired of being played for a fool. Sometimes that's the same thing. As I drove home that night, I reflected on how much my life had changed in just 4 days. 4 days ago, I was a married man who trusted his wife and thought he had a stable future. Now I was separated, filing for divorce, and it helped destroy 2 careers. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Ironically, Carla had been right about one thing in her Facebook post. Someone was finally free. It just wasn't who she thought it would be. 3 weeks later, I was having coffee at Murphy's Diner when Patricia Hendricks called with news about the divorce proceedings. Jake, you're not going to believe this, but Carla's attorney just called. She wants to settle out of court. What's she offering? She'll take her personal belongings and her car. You keep the house, the business, and all joint assets. No alimony, no division of property. She just wants out clean. I almost choked on my coffee. She's giving up everything? Apparently, she's desperate to avoid a public trial where all the evidence of her affair and workplace misconduct would become public record. Her new attorney advised her that fighting you would only make things worse. What about Evan? He pled guilty to assault charges and got 6 months probation plus anger management classes. His family hired him a lawyer, but there's not much they can do. He attacked you in front of witnesses. After I hung up with Patricia, I sat in the diner thinking about how completely my life had changed. In less than a month, I'd gone from betrayed husband to divorced man with full control of his assets and his future. But the story wasn't over yet. That afternoon, I got a call from an unexpected source, Mrs. Lawton from Pinnacle Tech. Mr. Thompson, I hope you don't mind me calling. I wanted to thank you for bringing the misconduct to my attention. Just doing the right thing, ma'am. Well, it turns out your ex-wife and Mr. Mitchell weren't the only ones involved in policy violations. Our investigation uncovered a whole network of employees who were misusing company resources. We've had to terminate 5 people total. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. We're better off without them. In fact, I'm calling because we have an opening in our facilities management department. We need someone to oversee maintenance and repairs for our vehicle fleet and office equipment. The salary is $60,000 a year plus benefits. I nearly dropped the phone. Mrs. Lawton, I appreciate the offer, but I run my own garage. I know, but think about it. Steady income, health insurance, retirement benefits, and you'd be working for a company that values integrity and honest work. That evening, I discussed the offer with Dave over beers at Frankie's bar. You should take it, Dave said. $60,000 a year? That's more than we clear most months at the garage. But what about the business? I can buy you out. I've got the money saved, and I know the customer base. You built something good here, Jake, but maybe it's time for a new chapter. Frankie agreed. You've been working on cars for 25 years. Maybe it's time to work on yourself for a while. The next morning, I called Mrs. Lawton and accepted the job offer. 2 months later, I was settling into my new office at Pinnacle Tech when Jessica from reception stopped by. "Mr. Thompson, there's someone here to see you. Says it's personal." I looked up to see Carla standing in my doorway. She looked different, thinner, older, like the stress of the last few months had aged her years. "Hello, Jake." "Carla, what can I do for you?" "I wanted to apologize, and to tell you that you were right." She sat down across from my desk, the same company where she'd once been an HR manager, now visiting as a stranger. "Right about what?" "About everything. About Evan, about the affair, about using company resources. I made terrible choices, and I hurt a lot of people." "Where's Evan now?" "Gone. He moved back to California to live with his parents. Turns out when the money and the job disappeared, so did his interest in me." I felt a flicker of sympathy for her, but only a flicker. "I'm sorry it didn't work out." "No, you're not. And you shouldn't be. I destroyed our marriage, I destroyed my career, and I destroyed any respect people had for me in this town." "So, what are you going to do now?" "I'm moving to Boston. My sister got me an interview with a small company there. It's a step down from what I had here, but it's a fresh start." "That's probably for the best." She stood to leave, then turned back. "Jake, I know this doesn't mean anything now, but I really am sorry. You deserved better than what I did to you." "Yes, I did." After she left, I sat in my office thinking about the strange turns life can take. 6 months ago, I was a betrayed husband whose wife announced their divorce on Facebook. Now I was a successful facilities manager at a growing tech company with a comfortable salary and a bright future. My phone buzzed with a text from my daughter Ava. "Dad, heard about your new job. So proud of you. Can't wait to see you at Christmas." For the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy about the future. That evening, I had dinner with Frankie at his bar. The place was crowded with the usual mix of blue-collar workers, office employees, and college students from the community college. "You know what's funny?" Frankie said as he poured me a beer. "What's that?" "Remember when this whole thing started? You were worried about people talking about you around town?" "Yeah." "Well, they are talking about you, but not the way you expected." "What do you mean?" "They're saying Jake Thompson is the guy who handled his divorce like a gentleman. No drama, no violence, just smart planning and letting the truth speak for itself. You're the guy who turned getting betrayed into getting a better life." "I don't know about that." "I do. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into the best thing that ever happened to you." As I walked home that night through the quiet streets of our small Massachusetts town, I reflected on Frankie's words. He was right, in a way. Carla's betrayal had hurt me deeply, but it had also freed me from a marriage that was slowly dying and a life that wasn't really making me happy. Her Facebook post announcing she was finally free had been more prophetic than she knew. She'd freed both of us, though not in the way she intended. 6 months later, I was promoted to Director of Operations at Pinnacle Tech. A year after that, I started dating Sarah, a nurse I met at the hospital during a routine checkup. She was kind, honest, and had never posted anything about her personal life on social media. 2 years after Carla's Facebook post, Sarah and I got married in a small ceremony at Frankie's bar, surrounded by friends who had supported me through the darkest period of my life. As we exchanged vows, I thought about the strange journey that had brought me to this moment. A betrayal that could have destroyed me had instead led me to a better life, a better job, and a better partner. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. And sometimes, when someone announces they're finally free on social media, they're freeing more people than they realize. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching,